Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Like and subscribe.
Welcome to the Sit, Walk, Work podcast, a show about paying attention. My name is Dominic and I'm your host, and today is a guided meditation. And what you can expect is that the practice will open up with a brief recap, followed by the actual practice itself. If you find today's episode valuable, please share with your friends and family, and feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. The show will begin after the following chimes. Tonight was about the space between things, how things transition, and how we can notice those things and the effect that they have on our practice. And so I started us off with being open, our awareness being wide and being open. And in that space of awareness, I just had you kind of notice what you came into the practice feeling, how things were, where you were with things before we even started, to get a sense for what you were already working with. And we moved into focusing on the locus of your attention, which is like, where do you see all of this happening from? And I asked you to notice the space kind of around your physical environment, but also to notice the little spaces between your breath, spaces between the sensations and the thought patterns that were arising. And then we moved from kind of noticing those things into really drawing the attention into a very focused point. And that was at the initial start of your breathing. Anapanasati is what it's called. And it's this idea that we can hold our attention in one space, regardless of all of the distractions that may be arising. In which I also asked you to meet with a bit of compassion along the way, with the stories you were telling yourself, with the things that were coming up, that we hold ourselves a little softer here in the practice than we might in other places. And so we kind of worked with that. And then we moved that idea from just the one spot where you were breathing in to feeling other places in your body, other places where you might have sensations arising, and allowed yourself to kind of explore those and their ever-changing nature. And then we opened it back up a little bit wider, and I asked you to bring in some feelings of joy and gratitude and a little bit of equanimity and balance, and welcome those things into your practice. And then we did that, put that in the heart, sent it out to someone or something that we cared about, and then voila, here we are 30 minutes later at the end of the road. So good job, everyone. I appreciate you being here and the work that you did. First things first, assume a comfortable position. And I say it that way specifically, so that could be seated or lying down. Everybody has a different means of what comfortable is for them. So I asked you to kind of find that for yourself. Things to pay attention to when you put yourself in that position, right? Sometimes we make ourselves so comfy we go to sleep, which, if that's your intention and what your body needs, I support it. I take no qualms about it. But if you want to be a little more alert, it might help to sit up a little bit. And then let your hands rest comfortably in your lap or by your side, depending on how you've positioned yourself. And then I ask you to take a breath. And notice if that was okay. If you could actually take a breath, because that is such a critical part of your practice, is being able to observe your breath. And so if that's hampered in any way, adjust that. And with all of those kind of physical points in mind, the next and final thing I would ask of you is to close your eyes. If it doesn't feel safe to do that, point your vision somewhere where it's going to be steady and stable and not all over the place. Part of this practice is to take away some of the external stuff so that your attention can be routed towards what's happening within you. And so, um, having the eyes closed can help support that. And here we are. We have arrived. We've made it to practice. We've made it this far into the week, as we were talking about at the beginning of class. There is a energy and an ebb and a flow from day to day as we work from the beginning of the week through the end of the week. And in between there's space, and this idea of the space between is kind of the theme that I'm working with today for practice. Noticing the way that space shows up as you sit with your practice, and finding the bit of freedom that can come along with recognizing um, the value of space. So as you rest here with your eyes closed, I want you just to get a sense for how your body feels today. It's almost like an inventory, taking inventory. And there's a couple ways you can think about it. Physically, how do you feel? Is there tension? Is there lightness? Is there a desire to fidget and move? Because the moment I ask you to hold steady and still, we can immediately see that begin to start to bubble up. In addition to the body, what else is present here? Is there a sense of tiredness in the mind, or just overall from the week, from the day, from what you've encountered thus far? And then noticing if there's any other feeling tone that just is present in general. And this observation is kind of the first thing that we learn in practice, is that we are taking time to simply observe what's happening within us, the state of our mind, the way our body feels. This observation happens from the space that we call your awareness. It is as if you're sitting back and taking in information that is being fed to you via your senses. How you choose to interact with that, or how you choose to not interact with it, is the practice. When I opened up practice, I talked about this idea of space. So that's the first place I'd ask you to kind of really let your attention begin to look for. Look for the space in your practice in this moment. And there's a few ways you can think about space as you're sitting here. You can notice the space in between each breath. little moments where you pause and things get still. You can notice the space between your sensations, between the places where you feel a lot of energy versus the places you don't. Another way to recognize space in this moment is to recognize where the locus of your attention is kind of held. So, where are you observing all of this from? For a lot of us, that happens directly behind the eyelids. Everything is concentrated in the head. But as you continue to practice, you might be able to move beyond the boundaries of the body and start to sense and notice the space in front of you or behind you, above you or below you. You can notice that there is space even in the way that the thoughts move through the practice. If you have a stream of thinking that's happening, or you're getting pulled away from just kind of the observations you're making because you're getting lost in thought, there's space present in those thoughts. You might be held on one thing and then the mind jumps to another, but it's that transition as things change. And in this space, it, you can begin to notice that there's always something present. Like it's never just empty. It might be changing often, but in that changing, something new is being reborn. And the cycle's kind of starting over again. And in addition to just observing the changing nature of our physical body and what's arising, there is an attitude here to all of this. And that's something we must be mindful of as we practice. Because sometimes we can hold our practice really, really firmly, almost with demand and expectation. And I would ask you to soften that, remain curious, be compassionate, because sometimes the things that arise aren't always pleasant. But in allowing ourselves to be with them, we're strengthening our ability to hold the complexities and the totality of our lives. Gently begin to move your attention into noticing the breath and how it's moving in. And I want you to see if you can isolate and locate the initial start of your breath. Meaning, if you're breathing in through the mouth, you should bring your attention to your mouth and notice the breath enter the mouth. If you're breathing in through your nose, do the same. And then with with the ever with the lightness of touch, notice how the breath moves in and out, as if you're just holding your attention here, feeling the start of the breath, noticing how that sensation has this ripple effect that moves throughout the body. Noticing that no two breaths are the same. Each one is its own experience, animated and brought to life by this natural energy that is moving through you. And as we hold our attention here at the point of, or hold our attention on our breath at the point of its origin, we can be influenced by the other parts of the practice in the space, the way the body feels, the way the mind is focused or working today. And if you find yourself meeting all of that with some form of resistance, my ask of you is, can you just acknowledge with compassion that your attention got redirected, and simply bring it back? In this way, there isn't a bad practice. There's just the practice that's happening. And then there's the story you're telling yourself about the practice. Turning back to the breath when we've been distracted for any reason is this idea that you can start over, that you can begin again, that the moments run together and give the illusion of continuity, but they're independent moments, just like your breaths that aren't the same. It can be hard to start over and begin again because our memory reminds us of times when things felt the way that we liked them to feel, or we felt the way we wanted to. It compares this moment with that. And in the way that you've been holding your attention at the origin of your breath, you can too hold your attention in the sensations of the body. And so you can stay here with the breath, or you can detour ever slightly and find a sensation in your body and rest your attention there. Bring your breath there and let that space be filled with both. And the thing about focusing on a sensation in your body is very similar to any other part of your practice. They change too. It's just often we don't notice because we're not inviting them to be where they are as they are. We're trying to make them the way we need them to be. The willingness to return, to explore, courage to start over. These are the qualities that reverberate beyond this moment. And it's interesting to note that all of this practice has kind of happened in the same space. Some of it in the body, some of it beyond it, but all of it here. Where the best and the worst of the moments kind of exist in this space. You're resting here in the practice. Can you invite in or connect with a feeling or a thought associated with gratitude and joy? Allowing your mind to consider something of meaning in those areas to you. Then see that they too are welcomed in this space, that you can fill this space with those memories and sensations of joy and gratitude, and just letting the mind be held there with them until they transform from a thought to a feeling. And the goal here is to not get lost in the memory, but to let yourself feel your joy and your gratitude, and then allow that feeling to ride on top of the breath and move through the body with each inhale and each exhale. And if you could take the joy and the gratitude that you're sensing in your body, and you could pull that into your heart space with your attention and your breath, as if you were powering up, filling up your heart with the joy and equanimity and gratitude that comes from within, not driven by having things, but simply from being. And as you allow your heart to fill up, imagine someone that you would give this gift to, that you would send this joy, this love, this gratitude, this equanimity to. And as you call that being to mind, allow that to flow out from you to them over the course of the next 3 to 5 breaths. If you need someone to send it to and no one's readily available, don't forget yourself. As we begin to bring our practice to a close, I will leave you with this final thought in relation to space. It comes from Ajahn Chah, who is a Vipassana meditation teacher, or was, I should say. And the quote says, "Space is a gift. It's a gift that we can give to others. It's a gift that others can give to us, but it's also a gift that we can give to ourselves. And that when we give ourselves this space, we bring things into awareness and allow them to be held softly and gently. When you're ready, slowly begin to blink your eyes open. Let the outside world back in. Stay with the subtleness of the practice for as long as you can before all of the movement begins its regular habituation.
That's the beauty of it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I invite you to check out my Substack, where we are building a community of like-minded individuals to discuss all topics related to the idea of paying attention. I hope to see you there. But until then, with metta may you be well.